A beautiful and vibrant 22-year-old set off on a cross-country journey with her fiancé. Through loving posts at the most breathtaking locations in the U.S., the pair appeared to have it all. Beauty, carefreeness, and a lifestyle that is idyllic and absolutely worth envying. But what happens when one of them returns home without the other? She's no longer communicating with her family, and she virtually fell off the face of the earth. And her fiancé, oh, he won't talk to anyone. And not only that, but he has now gone missing himself. This is the story of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. Hey boos, it's Nay. Welcome back to our channel. If you're new, I share this channel with my twin sister Nia, where we do a ton of different things, and today is gonna be something completely new, and it's just in time for spooky season. So we decided, for the Halloween season, we always see creators doing all of this amazing makeup, and that's just not our lane. But what is our lane? Hair. So we decided to do a series called Hairstyles and Horror Stories just for spooky season, where we're going to be doing our hair and telling you all a spooky story while we do our hair. So it's kind of like a chit chat, get ready with me, but instead of chit chatting, we're telling a story, and instead of getting ready, we're just doing our hair. So the story that I am doing today is going to be the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie story, and I am not reporting on this. I am literally just telling you all the story, giving you all of the facts. And if you haven't heard this story, then this will be a great video to watch, because I am going to have all the details that you need. And I know this video is long, so I'm gonna say sorry in advance. I got it as short as I could, guys, I promise, but I hope it's worth it. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you like it, definitely give us a thumbs up, as well as subscribe so that you can be a part of the family, and also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we upload another video. Okay guys, so this is how we are starting off, and before we jump into the story, I just want to give you a little background of my hair, the products that I'm going to be using, just in case you want to follow along. So this is my hair, freshly co-washed. I didn't feel the need to shampoo it, because I'm just going to be putting product back in. So it's been drying for maybe about 20 minutes now, so it's not like soaking wet, but it's definitely still wet. I've been picking at it a little bit, but I think my texture is probably like 4B, 4C. I'm not sure of the porosity. because I always get confused by the porosity. So I'm gonna look up the traits of the porosities and put my porosity right here. Okay, so just so you know, if you have a similar texture to me, then you can probably follow the same steps as me. If you have a different texture or a different porosity of hair, then you kind of want to alternate some products and how you do it a little bit to match your hair texture a little better. But yeah, the products that I'm going to be using are really simple. I'm just going to be using a spray bottle with water in it, because my hair dries really, really quickly. So I want to keep it moisturized, because I find that the more moisturized my hair is, like, it just lays smoother when I do this style. The next product that I'm going to be using, or yeah, this is the first product, but water. This product is the Shea Moisture Coconut Hibiscus Curl Enhancing Smoothie, and this is what it looks like here. And I used this product like 2 years ago when I was doing like more natural styles of my hair, and I think it really helped with keeping my hair slick. So that is why I wanted to use this product, and I think it works really well, so that I don't have to use as much of the next product, which is gel. So I'm going to be using gel because, again, gel is just going to help to smoothen my hair out. It's going to define my natural curls, make my hair hang on to the perm ride just a little better. And yeah, I feel like this is going to do great because it has never failed me. This is the one I use. I know everyone has their preference with Eco Styler. Use the one that works best for you. This is just the one that happens to hold my hair the best in my opinion and does not flake on my hair. And then the next product that I'm going to be using is the Carol's Daughter Hair Milk Foaming Styling Foam. And this product actually does flake on my hair. The times that I've used this by itself, you know, you have to use a decent amount, it's flaked. So I imagine that using these together is going to be the dream team, because I'll only need to use a small amount of both, and that should minimize the residue and the flaking left on my hair. Okay, y'all, so I'm doing a voiceover because this part of the video was way too long, but these are the rollers that I'm using. I got them all from my local beauty supply store, and they're the brand Annie. So I'm using these smaller ones for like my edges and like shorter or smaller sections of my hair. These two sizes here are like my go-to if you watched my last perm rod set, which I will link in this video. It's like my go-to. They are pretty similar in size, but here's a comparison. There is a slight difference, and I hope you can see it here. But the next size I'm using is a little bit bigger. I've never used it before, but I wanted to give it a shot to see if it would make my curls a little bigger. And here's just a comparison to the size I typically use. And here is an even bigger size that I'm trying out for the first time. I'm going to be mixing these up all through my head, and let's see what happens. So without further ado, let's jump into the story. So Gabby Petito was born in March of 1999 to her parents in Long Island, New York, and she was raised there actually. She spent all of her childhood and adolescence in New York, and that's also where she met Brian Laundrie. Now, I feel like it's Landry, but I'm saying laundry because that's what everyone else is saying, but yeah, so that is actually where she met Brian, and the two met in high school, or at least started dating in high school, when Gabby was a sophomore and Brian was a junior. And based on what her friends have told People magazine, their relationship has always really been drama filled. Okay, so they said they were always breaking up to the point where they didn't know when they were together and when they weren't together. So Brian and his family moved to Florida after Brian graduated high school, and they went about their lives for at least the next year. Gabby graduated high school and she decided not to go to college, which seems pretty on brand for her based on, you know, what her friends and family say about her. She was a free spirit, very open-minded, and she pretty much didn't want to be tied down to anything because she loved to travel and she loved to explore. So in 2018, Brian was back in Long Island. It's not clear how long he was back in Long Island, whether he was there just to visit or what. But he was back in Long Island, and him and Gabby reunited, or rekindled rather, their friendship. And they decided to just be friends. And they really spent the next year just getting to know each other, bonding over their shared love of art and nature and exploring. And of course, like, I feel like any of us, whether we've seen it in movies or in real life or heard about it being reported in, you know, other stories similar to this, these people, you know, or I should say we as humans get close to people, we find a common interest, we share something that we love, and especially when it's a platonic relationship, it makes it very easy for that relationship to become romantic. So within that year of them rekindling their friendship and just talking more, getting to know each other again, the two fell in love, and they officially started dating again in March of 2019. So they rekindled their friendship in 2018, and they were back together by March 2019. And her friends say that their first official date was at a sushi restaurant, and then they went like camping or to like look at the stars or something after that, maybe to a beach. Not sure. But yeah, so the two started dating, and by all accounts from family and friends, it seemed like everything was going perfectly. You know, the two had matured a little bit over the time that they were apart, and things really seemed to be going pretty smoothly. People were optimistic about their relationship. So within that first year of their relationship, the two, I guess, were madly in love, because Gabby actually decided to pick up and move from Long Island, New York, to move in with Brian and his family in Northport, Florida. And over that course of the year, there isn't much information that I was able to find, but I'm assuming things went well because in July of 2020, just 1 year after the two getting back together, Brian decided it was time. So he took Gabby on a trip to Deep South Park, or Deep South Farm in Georgia, which is a wedding venue where the two had a very romantic weekend away. And he actually proposed to Gabby. And their post on social media seemed so sweet. So he actually proposed on July 2nd of 2020, and I'm gonna go and read Gabby's post to you all announcing their engagement. So her post reads, "Here's a picture from our first date because I have so much love for you. Brian asked me to marry him and I said yes. You make life feel unreal and every day is such a dream with you. Hashtag sushi on the beach, hashtag fiance." So she was very excited about the engagement, and Brian, who was described as a person who really didn't play social media too closely, he kind of just stuck with his art and, you know, exploring the wilderness. At least that's what people say about him. He decided to make an Instagram account, and if you look at his Instagram, all of his first posts are from July 2nd, and on July 3rd, he decided to make his own post announcing their engagement, and this is what his post says. "My biggest fear is that one day I'll wake up and it will have all been a dream, because that is what every second has felt like since the moment we found each other. Till death do us part, or until I wake up. I'm so happy the answer was yes. Love you, honey." And the picture of them is much different, I think, than any other picture we've ever seen of them, because since they are such nature-loving people, we don't actually see them, you know, dressed up ever. They're usually in gear that is appropriate for camping or hiking. So it's a really nice picture of them. You can tell that he really took his time planning out this engagement, and it was very beautiful. And from what I've been able to find online, their families were both really excited about the engagement. Like I said earlier, things were going well, and there seemed to be a mutual love and respect between Gabby and Brian's family. She really got along with them well, so no one had any reason to think that anything could ever go wrong between them. However, shortly after the engagement, they ended up calling off the engagement, deciding that they were too young and maybe potentially that things were moving too fast. They didn't give an exact reason, but Gabby's mom said in an interview that, you know, maybe it was that they were too young and things were just moving a little too fast. So they decided to not start over, but go back to being girlfriend and boyfriend, just to take a little more time to get to know one another better before they took that leap. And it kind of makes you wonder what would make them backtrack, because there is no time frame on when you can or should get engaged to someone. When you know the time is right, you know. So I imagine that, I don't know who called off the engagement, if it was a mutual agreement, but someone felt like something, you know, just wasn't right, and they decided to put a halt on wedding proceedings until they got those, changed those things, or got those small things, you know, right in their relationship. But even after their engagement was over, Gabby continued to live in Florida. She was a pharmacy tech and Brian was an artist, so he sold his watercolor artwork as well as his digital artwork to save money. And the two, like I said, they love to travel, they love to explore, and they always dreamed of just traveling across the country. So over the next year, they worked, saved, and pulled their money together in order to make their dream a reality. And on July 2nd, 2021, 1 year to the date of their original engagement, the two set off on a cross-country journey to live the hashtag van life, which has become really popular lately. We see van life all over social media. It's a great alternative, a great way to save rent money, because rent is through the roof no matter where you live these days. And it's also great for people who love to explore and don't want to be tied down to one area. And once they set off on their trip, they were extremely excited about it, and they visited a ton of different places, and I actually wrote them down because I knew I would not remember them. So within the first month of their trip, they visited Monument Rock in Kansas, Colorado Springs, Great Sand Dunes, Bryce Canyon, Mystic Hot Springs, Canyonlands, Arches National Park, Zion National Park. They visited so many different places, and this is just a few. They visited national parks, camping grounds, landmarks, popular diners to really explore. Through social media, the pair shared a sweet and wholesome peek inside of their journey, and it really showed a relationship that many people would consider couple goals these days. You know, everyone wants to be couple goals, and they were even working on a website together that they were going to call Nomadic Static. They were really trying to make their van life into their normal life and also their source of income. But by mid-August, things seemed to take a turn for the worse, and their picture perfect idealistic lives, we would soon find out, was a bit of a nightmare. And it all started when Gabby's family had a hard time getting in touch with her. Now, she kept in touch with her family pretty regularly through phone calls and through FaceTime. And it wasn't weird for a few days to go by without them speaking. You know, of course, they are traveling through very rural lands when they are camping, so there's not always a lot of cell phone signal or Wi-Fi for them to use. So of course, her family did not make a big fuss when they couldn't get in touch with her. What gave them a little peace is them receiving a text message from Gabby's phone which read, quote, "No service in Yosemite." But as more time passed, her family began to realize that this silence from her was not normal at all. And they got worried, but they weren't just worried about Gabby. They were also worried about Brian. So her mom actually tried to reach out to Brian. And when she couldn't get in touch with Brian, she reached out to Brian's mom. And his mom was also silent. There was nothing. And after enough time passed, Gabby's dad found out. He also tried to reach Brian and his family, but no one could get in touch with them. And he even threatened to get the police involved, but still nothing. So of course, this would make any family extremely worried, because they're thinking that something happened with not just their child, but their child's fiance who she's away with. So her dad, who recently moved to Florida actually in June of 2021 to be closer to Gabby, drove the 3-hour drive from his home to Brian's family's home. And it's unclear what exactly was said when he got to the home. He never went inside of the house. We don't know who he talked to in the home. There aren't a lot of details about that. But we do know that he spoke with someone, because that very same night on September 10th, there was an incident report made with the police for Brian's family's home. So we do know he got in contact with someone, and that was September 10th. And of course, this is upsetting to any parent, because you don't know where your child is. You want answers, and the person who your child is supposed to be with, their parents just do not seem to care or have any interest at all. So that's extremely frustrating. And Gabby's dad relayed this information to Gabby's mother, who went to file a missing persons report on September 11, 2021 in New York, where they lived. So she went to the Suffolk County Police Department and reported Gabby missing, and they took this case seriously from the beginning. I imagine it has something to do with the fact that they hadn't spoken to her in so long, because remember, the last text came to Gabby's mom on August 30th. It is now September 11th. And no one has spoken to her, and her family says this is absolutely out of character for no one to have spoken to her in this amount of time. So the police in Suffolk County, New York, contacted the Northport Police Department and asked them to do a wellness check on Gabby and Brian. And they did exactly that. They went to Brian's family home, and of course, you're thinking they're gonna find one of two things. They're either gonna find the two there together, happy, or they're gonna find another distraught family trying to locate their child. But they found the complete opposite of both. Brian's family was perfectly fine, and to everyone's surprise, Brian was home. And Gabby's van that they were going on their cross-country journey with was at Brian's house. See, Brian had actually been home since September 1st. It is September 12th at this point. That's a bit ridiculous, and there seemed to be no concern about Gabby. And this is when Gabby's family knew that that text message could not have been from Gabby. So the police tried to talk to Brian and his family that day, and they were instantly met with a phone number to contact their lawyer because they were not cooperating with police at all in this investigation. Right there, that's a red flag, because if Brian was home since the 1st and it is now the 11th or the 12th when the police are doing this wellness check, what made you get a lawyer? You know, that's super duper weird and suspect. And at this point, Gabby's family was convinced that the text message that they received on August 30th did not come from Gabby. Because if she texted them to say that on August 30th and Brian was home by September 1st, how far they were, he was all the way on the West Coast. He drove all the way to Florida in one day. No. And Gabby never mentioned in her text message that her and Brian were no longer together. And if you're going to text anything like no service, you'd at least mention that, you know, the plans have changed, you're by yourself, or maybe that you allowed him to take your car back to Florida across the country. How are you getting around? Like, she was a very careful person, and there's no way she would have left her family in the dark like this. I want to give you guys a close-up to show y'all what I'm doing with my hair, okay? The fact that Brian wouldn't talk to the police was super weird, because if this is someone you called your girlfriend or your fiance and you loved her and you cared about her, why won't you tell anyone where she is? If your family loved her and cared about her, why wouldn't they tell anyone where she is or when they last spoke to her, or give anyone any details about where she could be? She lived with these people. They had to seem to have had some bit of relationship with her to care enough about her whereabouts. I can't accept, just like most people can't accept, that they were just like, oh, well, they broke up and she's doing her own thing now. And he returned home without her, with no word of where she is, who she's with. It just doesn't make sense. And the fact that they did hire a lawyer and were completely uncooperative with police and tight-lipped about Gabby's location did not sit well with anyone. Not the police, not Gabby's family, and not the general public. And this is where we see this story kind of take off, and all of the dips and twists of what seemed like a perfect relationship began to come out as the complete opposite of a perfect relationship. So that is how I am doing all of my perm rides, and as the story progresses, as I'm going through it, when I have the opportunities, I'll show you some more close-ups. Now back to the story. Since police couldn't get any word from Brian, they knew that the car belonged to Gabby and it was potentially the last place she was. So police did go ahead and seize her vehicle, and although we don't know what was found in the vehicle, they did say that they found something. We just don't know what they found. They haven't released it to the public. Gabby's family released a public plea through their attorney to Brian's family after Brian and his family would absolutely not speak to them. And I have it here, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you all. They said, please, if you or your family have any decency left, Please tell us where Gabby is located. Tell us if we are even looking in the right place. All we want is for Gabby to come home. Please help us make that happen. We haven't been able to sleep or eat, and our lives are falling apart. And that's such a hard plea, I'm sure it was, to make. And this was released to multiple news outlets. And this is when this story, again, totally took off, because you have this beautiful young couple traveling across the country, documenting their entire journey, and then one returns home and the other doesn't. It's a sensational story, as sad as it is. So police didn't have enough information to actually make Brian a suspect in Gabby's disappearance. So what they did in order to kind of put a little pressure on him and his family was they did announce that he was a person of interest on September 15th, 2021. So not too long ago, it was literally just 1 month ago, when he was made a person of interest. And one day after that, the beauty of their relationship was torn to shreds when body cam footage came out of what we actually saw was Gabby and Brian. They had been at a restaurant, or outside of a restaurant, and they were arguing, and someone called into police claiming that this was a domestic violence dispute. And I'm going to go ahead and let this police phone call play for you all.
Grant County Sheriff's Office.
Were you able to get a description of the intoxication?
Hi, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, I'm calling. I'm right on the corner of Main Street by Moonflower, and we're driving by, and I'd like to report a domestic dispute. Florida with a white van, Florida license plate, white land, gentleman,
Where's
about
it at?
5'6", beard. They just drove off. They're going down Main Street. They made a right onto Main Street from Moonflower.
Or what were they doing?
Cooperative, but what'd you say?
What were they doing?
We drove by, and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
White van. I can give you the license plate if you give me 1 sec. I took a picture of it.
What kind of white van? Like a big one?
It was a smaller van with the license plate of, it was white, Florida license plate. It was, the make was a Ford, model was Transit, black ladder on the passenger side.
Black ladder, passenger side.
White Ford Transit.
White Ford Transit. Okay, what's your name? And where did they, so they turned, they headed south on Main Street from Moonflower Market?
Correct, they made the right turn.
Oh, so they went north.
North, yeah, sorry, I'm not from around here.
Okay, so you're right there by the post office?
Right across the street, yep.
Okay, and when they turned onto Main Street, they went right or left?
Right.
Right, so they went north. North on Main. All right, I will let somebody know. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Bye.
Thanks.
All right, y'all. So we got one section done. But as you can hear in that phone call to the police, the caller stated that they saw Brian hitting Gabby. But we get a different story once the police arrive. So police immediately responded. They got there within 5 minutes, but Gabby and Brian were already gone. And the police did have the description of their van, so they looked for the van. And within a few moments, they were able to find the van. And according to police, Gabby and Brian's van was going 45 miles per hour in a 15 miles per hour zone. And they eventually hit a curb, and that is when they were pulled over. And I'm going to go ahead and play the clip of when they were pulled over by police.
Sorry, officer. You want to place your vehicle into park and go ahead and turn it off for me? Yeah. No, park?
Oh, it isn't park yet.
Okay, turn off your engine. Go ahead and set your keys on the dash for me, all right? What's your guys' names?
Gabby.
Gabby, Brian? Okay. What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm sorry, we've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
It was a long day. We were camping yesterday, and camping got the stuff, flies and stuff. I'm sorry I hit the bump there.
I was distracting him from driving. I'm sorry.
Can I get you to step out of the vehicle for me, man?
Yeah.
Just hang tight right there. Do you mind if I take your keys and just put them on your hood?
You got it, buddy. I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you. Oh, no, you're fine. I'm going to go ahead and close your door, okay? Why don't you come over here? SO229, I have the female that was on the passenger seat separated from the male. Keys are on the hood. You want to tell me what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, some days I have really bad OCD, and I was just cleaning and straightening up the back of the van before, and I was apologizing to him and saying, I'm sorry that I'm so mean, because sometimes I have OCD, and sometimes I just get really frustrated. Not like mean towards him, I guess my vibe is like, I hear him be like in a bad mood. And I was just saying, I'm sorry if I'm in a bad mood. I've just been really stressed. I had so much work I was doing on my computer this morning.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I used to work at an all-organic juice bar, but I just quit my job.
Okay.
I was a nutritionist. That was my
That's
job.
cool.
And I just quit my job to travel across the country. And I'm trying to start a blog. I have a blog and stuff. So I've been building my website. So I've just been really stressed. And he doesn't really believe that I could do any of it. So that's kind of been like a, I don't know, he's like a downer. I don't know. We've just been fighting all morning. And he wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
Why wouldn't he let you in the car? Because of your OCD?
He told me I needed to calm down. Yeah. But I'm perfectly calm. I'm calm all the time. And he really stresses me out. And this is a rough morning.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't I sit you down in the back seat of my car? You're not in any trouble, okay? I'm not going to be putting handcuffs on you. You obviously don't have any weapons. I'm going to get you into the air conditioning, let you take a breath, relax a little bit, and then I'll come back and talk to you in a few minutes, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty. Like I said, you're not in any trouble. So just go ahead and take a seat. Watch your feet.
Now, as you all can see in their encounter with the police, Gabby is clearly distraught. She is crying. She is hyperventilating. It's very sad to watch, especially in knowing that she's missing. And she describes having a mental health condition, but in an interview with Dr. Phil, her father confirms that she's never actually been diagnosed with any type of mental health condition, and he's not sure why she said that, but chances are she's young, you know, and it's probably just her way of describing how she was feeling in that moment. But we see how distressed she was, and Brian is completely cool as a cucumber during this encounter with the police.
You talked to my fiance, right?
What's that?
You talked to Gabby already?
Yeah, I just spoke to her.
Yeah.
So, you want to do me a favor? Let's go ahead and get you to step out of the vehicle, alrighty? Come on over here. You're not in any trouble right now. So, tell me what's going on.
She just gets worked up sometimes, and I try and really distance myself from her, so like I lock the car and I walk away from her. What happened this morning is that she's trying to start up like her own little website blog and everything, so I give her time, and we really had a nice morning, if anything, but she just worked up because we were trying to get going and get our day going because we want to go like arches before the Sunday time.
Okay. You want to tell me about those scratches on your face?
She had a cell phone in her hand, that's why I was pushing her away, because she wanted I locked the keys so I could walk away. I said, let's just take a breather and let's not go anywhere. Let's just calm down for a minute because she was getting really worked up. And then she had her phone and was trying to get the keys from me, so I got in the way. I was just trying to, I know I shouldn't push, but I was just trying to push her away to go, let's just take a minute, step back and breathe. And she got me with her phone.
Can I see your hand? Oh, you got a mark right here.
Oh, that's from a wire.
That's from a wire?
Yeah.
You want to tell me about hitting that curb?
Hitting the curb was her grabbing the wheel.
She grabbed the wheel?
Yeah. She said, I can't believe we're getting pulled over, and then she grabbed the wheel.
What about the speed? Did she take over the...
No, I
over the pedal on you?
If I was going fast, I'm sorry. No, it's probably just the moment of like, I'm still shaking now. The adrenaline, seeing the lights flashing up, and then her gripping the wheel. So if I sped up, I'm sorry about that. Or if I was speeding beforehand, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it took quite a bit to catch up to you. So,
yeah. I'm sorry about that. We're just going into the park again to get water because we have a 6-gallon water container to fill up. So we're just grabbing water for the hike. Okay. And I was trying to keep everything calm and quiet because there's plans still to go for a hike, but then she gripped. I'm really sorry about that.
Of course. Do me a favor. You want to go ahead and just take a seat right over here on the curb for me?
And if I was speeding, I'm sorry. I want to apologize.
You don't have anything in that pocket or anything like that, do you?
Nope.
Just the wallet? All right. And then, do you mind lifting your shirt so I can check the waistband? Turn around for me real quick. Perfect.
Nothing.
I just want to make sure.
Can I just, I'll say crisscross applesauce, but can I just sit in the shade because I'm bald? It's okay. I'll give you some shade. Sound good?
Alright, just hang tight for me.
All the lights come on, and I like kind of went like this.
Did you already tell him all this?
I didn't get that far into
Okay,
it.
so
She was hyperventilating
She's
a little
saying
bit.
that they don't drink, but at the point when you lit them up,
You don't drink or anything.
She started hitting him.
I was yelling at him, and then when you turned your lights on, I like kind of punched his arm like there's a idiot.
she's saying it was why he hit the curb. You said it was Gabby?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I remember that name was Gabby.
Yeah.
Try to meditate stuff, but you tend to have a lot of anxiety and stress.
I have a lot of anxiety.
And what's his
OCD.
name? Is it Brian? Is he usually pretty patient with you?
Yeah. But it just makes me upset. I know that he definitely gets frustrated with me a lot.
I've taken my anxiety and bringing it down, but my ex-wife, I'm just trying, I know it's a little personal, but to help you understand, we would feed off each other's anxiety and it would spiral, you know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much I loved her. It may be bad for your soul, just saying. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, but if you know you have anxiety, look at the situations you can get in, you know what I mean? And we're not here to be mean to you or anything. Well, you know, there's a first time and then it usually, we'll go see what Brian's saying, but I think you've heard everything now from...
Quick question. You said you were hitting him in the arm. Did you grab the steering wheel?
No, I didn't.
You did not touch the steering wheel?
I didn't touch the steering wheel, but only for like a second, because I just saw the lights come on, and it was more just like, you're an idiot. Like, you know.
But did you grab the steering wheel and like
No.
swerve or anything like
No.
that?
I didn't touch the steering wheel at all.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close this door again. Do you have enough air back here or do you want me to kick it up some more?
Do you have any water?
I will see if I can find some.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Right for me. I got a quick question for you, Ryan. Sure. Do you take any medications or anything like that? You don't take any medications or anything like that? Okay. Are you normally this kind of like hyper?
Do I see my heart rate up whenever the lights flash on? It gets your heart rate up. If I see my
Trust me, it does me too, and I'm the one that it gets me going a little
you probably
bit
can
too.
say "Hey, buddy" whenever somebody walks up.
So, okay. Yeah, do you know if she takes any?
She's crazy. No, I don't think so. No, none that I know of.
Fortunately for her, we cannot treat, just because he's bigger and stronger, and even if he's not willing to press charges, we can't treat this differently than if it was a male on female violence.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to charge her, and we can do a citation if there's some arrangement that can be made to separate them, and then we have to let them know that there's no contact order in effect.
Yeah.
And then we have to let him know the only way to drop is to go into the police department during business hours and fill out a waiver, which, by the way, what's
It's
today?
too late
Thursday? So it won't be till tomorrow. Did you ask me to take pictures of him? Yeah?
No, I haven't done any of that yet.
Ryan, unfortunately, in the state of Utah, we don't have discretion on some things. Like, for example, if I pull you over for speeding and I want to give you a warning, I can do that because it's under Class A, it's a Class B or under. If I want to give you warnings for all kinds of stuff, I can, but there's a few things I can't. When I say I, the police, I'm not in charge of anything. One of the things that the state legislature doesn't give us discretion on is charges when it comes to a domestic assault. And it sounds like you guys are living together, so you meet the statute for domestic partners. And you do have injury, and both an independent witness, probably the next one we're going to talk to as well, which we haven't talked to yet, but the one we did talk to, and your own companion have made it clear that she was the primary aggressor and that she was striking you and you just received injuries. You haven't admitted to striking her. She has not admitted to striking her. The witness did not see you strike her. So at this point, you're the victim of a domestic assault. That even if you didn't want to pursue this, we don't have a choice. The best thing we can do to not, the law says we have to charge her. It doesn't say we have to put her in jail. Okay, but it also says we have to separate through a no contact order, and we have to put her in jail if we cannot separate. And the little problem here is you guys are out of Florida living in the van together. How are we supposed to separate her guys? Now I don't want to take this small 20, what is she?
Yes, a 22-year-old
female in jail.
jail.
That you could definitely defend yourself against, but at the same time, we can't say because you're a male and she's a female, we can't treat this different than if you were the male hitting her. We got to treat it the same.
Yeah, no.
So she's kind of in a tough spot. So unless you have an idea about how she could not go to jail and be separated, you have friends in town, somewhere she could stay. Tomorrow, if you want to, it's up to you. You can
I go to jail?
You can't because we don't have a charge for you. Now tomorrow, if you wanted to be with her again tomorrow,
I'm going to take your break in.
if you want to be with her again tomorrow, because it's after 5, so office is closed, so you can go to the police department and fill out a waiver to drop the no contact order so you guys can still be together.
So during the stop with the police, what really caught my attention was the fact that Brian was so calm and cool and trying to come off as so normal and likable, while Gabby was clearly distraught. It just, the two personalities, or the two, I guess, their condition at that point just didn't really match up. And to me, that came off as someone who was trying to pretend that they were good and everything was cool, even though it wasn't. I guess knowing what I know now about the situation. And as you saw in the video, Gabby immediately took responsibility for her role in the altercation, while Brian immediately threw her under the bus and kind of put everything onto her. And he even tried to, I guess, in my opinion, clear up what she might say. You know, he didn't know what she would say. So when asked if he hit her, he said no, but then he said he pushed her, and he did a little more explaining, saying that, you know, he was just trying to get her off of him while she was attacking him. Now, I don't doubt that Gabby did attack him just based on the fact that she said it, he said it, and that she's really distressed. And I know how sometimes when you're really distressed, you act out of emotion. So I think most people totally, you know, understood that. But did you catch when he lied? He said that she grabbed the steering wheel, but she said she never grabbed the steering wheel, that she just hit his arm, you know, and that's pretty much it. So that was something that was really alarming to me. Now, I can't play all of the police footage because it's 1 hour worth of footage, but I did just want to play the important parts, and I think this last part is very important to give you context of why this video coming out was such a bombshell early on in the investigation of where Gabby Petito was.
The person who can answer this question is you. Think very hard before you answer the question. Do not quickly answer it. Think very hard. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him? No. What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me something.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like she attempted to injure him. It's your call. This is 100% your call. I support you either way.
I'll let you get back to your parents, okay?
So assault is an attempt with unlawful force or violence to do bodily injury to another. The code for bodily injury, the definition says, bodily injury is infliction of pain or physical impairment or illness. So you can go. Now I'm recording, and society, the judges, and everyone can judge me for this. I am looking at a 110-pound female and her fiance have no means to be separated. He doesn't want to pursue it. She's not a threat to him, more than slight abrasions from her fingernails. I don't care if we use the actual letter of the law to not charge, but I also don't care because it literally does possibly make perfect sense to go full-on domestic assault and do the whole thing. This is your opportunity to make the decision. Let's do this. I support you either way.
Let's take whether I
Look, another option is to not charge them, but separate them for the night. If they find themselves together again, what is it to you? You separated them. You provided for his safety. If he doesn't have enough sense to stay away and you got him separated, it's on him.
We can't babysit them for life because we put them in jail, so it's up to them without
You can separate them and say, don't let this go off till tomorrow. If they don't let it go off and we hear about it, we'll hear about it.
They're camping in the park tonight, we'll let you know.
And if there's some fighting going on, you already was Mr. Nice Guy. You already gave him a chance.
This is what I'm going to do. I've decided I am not going to cite you for domestic violence battery, okay? It was only going to be a Class B misdemeanor. However, the domestic violence portion of it enhances it. Makes life a major pain in the butt, especially you're 22, right? So I'm choosing not to cite you today. So you are not going to be charged with anything. Alright? But this is what I do have to do. I am separating the two of you tonight. Okay? I want you guys both to be tonight away from each other, relax, breathe, crying, because there's no reason to be crying now, okay? I understand that this can feel like it's a nightmare, but you're coming out as the golden flower on top of it, okay? So, you're going to be taking the van tonight, and you're going to go somewhere else. I am going to get him lined up for the hotel room tonight. I want you guys to stay away from each other. For both of you guys' sake. From what you told me and what he told me, you guys have a bunch of little things that are building up, and finally the little string that you guys were tight walking on the road tonight. Does that sound about right?
So during the stop with police, it was kind of agreed upon by all parties that Gabby was at fault, but they did not arrest or detain anyone at that point. And I think they thought that they were cutting them a break. So as it was confirmed by Brian as well, neither one of them take medication. But of course, they didn't see the interview her father did with Dr. Phil prior. So they probably thought that they were just doing a good deed by letting this young couple go. And they let them go, but they did separate them for the night. And if you listen to the video closely, you would have heard the officer say to Gabby that she can get back to talking to her family. So this argument was not news to her family. When it came out, it was not surprising. It was only news to us, this altercation on August 12th. So her mom actually spoke out about this in an interview. I can't remember with who, but her mom basically said that, you know, it didn't matter what the argument was about. Couples argue, and I don't think anyone thought that it was a really big deal until the next day when information came out from a girl on TikTok named Miranda Baker. And she said that her and her boyfriend were camping and they picked up a hitchhiker who they believed to be Brian Landry. And this was on the 29th. And I'm gonna go ahead and, I know y'all are probably tired of videos, but these videos add such great context because you get to hear from the source what exactly is going on. But I'm gonna play the video, her TikTok, so that you can see what she said happened when her and her boyfriend picked up Brian Landry.
Hi, my name is Miranda Baker, and on August 29th, my boyfriend and I picked up Brian at Grand Teton National Park at 5:30 at night at Coulter Bay. I'm hoping this can help someone identify him because I saw him from TikTok, which then made me call the authorities, and my boyfriend and I have been in contact with a bunch of different people to help piece together different parts of this case, but we picked him up at Coulter Bay, like I said, at 5:30. He approached us asking us for a ride because he needed to go to Jackson, which we were going to Jackson that night. So I said, hop in. He hopped in the back of my Jeep. We then, proceeded to make small talk. But before he came in the car, he offered to pay us like $200 to give him a ride, like 10 miles. So that was kind of weird. He then told us he's been camping for multiple days without his fiance. He did say he had a fiance, and that she was working on their social media page back at their van. Then once, like, in conversation, I brought up, we're going to Jackson. He freaked out. He's like, nope, I need to get out right now. Pull over. So we pulled over at the Jackson Dam, which I don't know if you know, like, Teton Park, but it's not very far from Coulter Bay. And if this does, like, reach people, I can post pictures of, exactly where we picked him up and the whole route or whatever, and like screenshots of like the timestamps. We dropped him off at 6:09 p.m. on August 29th. He kind of like hurried out of the car, and then he's like, okay, I'm just gonna go find someone else to, hitchhike. And we're like, okay. It was a weird situation. So when we picked him up, he was wearing a backpack, he had a long sleeve pants, hiking boots, and he had like scruff, but he didn't look dirty. For someone who was camping for multiple days, like, he didn't look dirty, he didn't smell dirty, so that part was kind of weird. And I'm just really hoping that they find her, and this helps someone like remember seeing him, or something like that.
So as you can see, she described picking up Brian on August 29th. And that's what makes this really horrific, is because Brian was by himself. Gabby's last time speaking to her mom was on August 23rd or 24th. And then Brian is hitchhiking without Gabby and without their van on August 29th. And then he's home by September 1st, all the way in Florida from Wyoming. It doesn't really make sense. And this is when it starts to feel like police really made a bad judgment call when they let this couple go and called it a mental health break and just separated them for the night and told them, if they wanted to get back together tomorrow, they could, but they needed to be separated for the night. At this point, it sounds like a bad call, right? So she uploaded a series of videos just describing what else she saw and really making her story clear.
To clarify a few things that people are confused on still, when he asked for a ride, he has to go to Jackson, which, if you're familiar with this area, a lot of people call Jackson Hole Jackson. So that's why I said yes to giving him a ride. But you think any good hiker would know south and north. We were going south out of the park when he said he was camping north. He had told us that him and Gabby were not camping on a regulated campsite through the national park, that they were camping basically out in the middle of nowhere along Snake River. This is key information. He said that he had hiked for days along Snake River, but when looking at his backpack, it wasn't full, and he said all he had was a tarp to sleep on, which you think if you're going camping for days on end, you'd want food and a tent, and he had none of that. And like I said, he looked clean and didn't smell bad. So this is a view of the whole journey with Brian. So that's the top at the park at Coulter Bay, and then we drove him to this dam right here. Then at the dam, we dropped him off at this little turnout, and he said he was going to walk across the street to the parking lot, which was full of people, to continue hitchhiking and look for a ride, because he freaked out when I said Jackson Hole. He said we needed to pull over, even though Jackson and Jackson Hole are the same thing. It's the same town itself. This is the text I sent to my mom at 6:09, right when he got out of the car, saying I was okay because she was freaking out. This is at the park, or at the pickup location, and we were taking a shower. We then walked across, and our car was parked on the left side of the picture, and he talked to us right in the middle. And he was talking to my boyfriend the entire time, but like I was the one actually talking, and he was like not frantic, and he was very nice, very polite to us.
So as you can see from her video, she shared a lot of details, a lot of information, and she seemed really matter of fact. She seemed like she goes camping. She knows what you would need in these types of situations, and he really just didn't fit the bill for someone who had been hiking or camping for days, you know? So that was very suspicious, but I think just how knowledgeable she was of the area and camping and hiking definitely gave her some credibility in my book, and I believed her. But she did upload a series of other videos, not many. It doesn't seem like she's trying to profit or anything. She's just trying to share the information so that if anyone else possibly have seen him, that they can maybe recall to the police what they've seen, you know, come forward with the information that they have. But yeah, I found her to be really believable. She was just so matter of fact, and apparently the police did as well, because on that same day that she uploaded those videos onto TikTok, September 17th, the FBI got involved, and the police actually went to Brian's family home in Florida. And when they got there to speak with him, they were met with something I don't think any of us was expecting. Brian's family, as well as his lawyer, said that Brian was missing. He had been missing for days. The last time that they saw him was on September 14th. It is now September 17th. His family said that he left his phone home, he left his wallet home, and that he was supposed to be going for a hike in Carlton Reserve in Florida, which is very alarming, because why didn't you take your wallet or your phone? You know that you need to honestly be available, because the police is investigating the disappearance of your girlfriend, and if you cared about her and wanted to find her, wouldn't you kind of have your phone with you just in case the cops showed up to your home with more questions, just in case, you know, news came out about her, just in case she was found or she tried to contact you? Wouldn't you make sure that you have some form of contact? Or even if you're not worried about her, you would have some type of contact, some form of contact available for your family to reach you. But no, that was not the case. Brian was gone. His family was still tight-lipped, and they wouldn't talk about Gabby with police. The only thing they would talk about was the fact that Brian was missing at this point, which really pissed Gabby's family off, because they're like, he's not missing. He's not the victim here. He is hiding. And there's a difference between missing and hiding. And I gotta say, I 100% agree with them. This was just extremely suspicious behavior. And it definitely, if nothing else had a microscope on him, this absolutely had a microscope on him at this point. And it also had a microscope on his family, because why are you just now reporting him missing 3 days later? Was it not important enough to you? So based on the information that Brian's family gave police, that he was last seen prior to a hike at Carlton Reserve, the police immediately started a massive search at Carlton Reserve. But see, the thing about Carlton Reserve is that Carlton Reserve is an 80-mile stretch. So it is huge, and it's going to take a lot of manpower to actually find him if he is hiding there. They did overhead searches, they did searches on the land, they did searches in the different bodies of water that are located at Carlton Reserve, and they have not been able to find Brian. But they said that if they were to find Brian, they would just bring him home, because as of right now, he is not under arrest. They do not have enough information or probable cause to arrest him in connection to Gabby's disappearance. So he would just be returned home to his family, and they would hope that they would be able to have a conversation with him and question him. But this absolutely raises the level of suspicion of where he is and if Gabby will even be found alive. And if that wasn't enough, another couple hiking, and this now adds some validity to the story of Miranda Baker. Another couple who was also camping, and they're a traveling family who does similar things to what Gabby and Brian were trying to do. They wanted to vlog their adventures as a traveling family with their children. And their names are Lynn and Kyle Bethune. They actually were in the same area, Grand Teton National Park, when they saw a van that looked exactly like the one they'd been seeing on the news related to the missing young lady, Gabby Petito, right? So they thought, wow, this is interesting. So they remembered that they had some footage of the van. They didn't just see the van, they recorded the van, guys. So they went back on their computer and they started to scroll through all of their footage from their trip in Grand Teton National Park. And while searching through their footage, they remembered specifically that when they saw the van had a Florida plate. And the reason they remembered this is because they're also from Florida. So they're like, you know, well, we're camping, we're hiking, everyone's pretty much friendly. Everyone looks out for each other when you see other people who are also camping and hiking. So when they saw this car, it instantly caught their attention. And their plan was to kind of stop and talk to the people because they were also from Florida. They thought they would have something in common. And they were looking for a place to camp for the night with their children. But when they rode past the van was empty, and it seemed like no one was there, and they just assumed that the people who were in the van were probably on a hike. So they just kept going. And amazingly, when they went through the footage on their computer, there it was. The video of them going past Gabby and Brian's van, and the van appeared to be abandoned on the side of the road, at least for the moment. They could have been out hiking or anything. But this footage was from August 27th. And that was completely mind-blowing to everyone, okay? Because if Gabby's last time speaking to her parents were on between the 23rd and the 25th, and they saw this van abandoned in Grand Teton National Park on the 27th, and then someone saw Brian and picked him up hitchhiking on the 29th, and he was home by the 1st. That means that Gabby has not been seen or heard from, at this point we know, since between the 23rd and the 24th and the 25th. So where is Gabby? So the Bethune family was immediately compelled to call the police, like anyone would. So they called the tip line and they told police exactly where they saw this van at. And immediately police went to this area to start canvassing and see if they could find any sign that Gabby was actually there, that Brian was actually there. And what they found was something that all of us were hoping that they would not find. On September 19th, police reported that they found a body matching the description of Gabby Petito in a remote area of Grand Teton National Park on, I believe, the border, near the border of Wyoming. And this information, I think, was heartbreaking for everyone to receive, because at this point, Gabby and Brian's story had made national headlines, and everyone was really hoping that she would return home safely. But now it made sense even more why Brian was missing. So in the wake of this new information being released, Gabby Petito's father did make a post on Instagram showing her standing in front of a painted wall that had wings, and she was right in the center. And the post read, #Gabby Petito, you touched the world. And it's so interesting to think about now, like, she touched the world after she passed away, but her goal, not in life, I don't know if this was her goal for what she wanted to do forever, but for the time being, she was working to become a blogger. She was working on her own website. She was working on a YouTube channel. She was posting content, not just pictures and videos on Instagram, but actual content, you know, to grow her following, to grow people's interest in what Brian and her had going on. And She touched people in that way because she was able to amass a really big following then, but her following grew way more once we found out that this girl was missing. And it's just really sad. And just one day later, a search warrant was released for the Landry home, and they went into the Landry home taking any evidence they could find that they felt would be useful in their search for information about Gabby's death, as well as in their search for Brian. And they did end up seizing the family Mustang, which Brian, that was the last car that Brian was driving. And just one day after this search warrant was released and they began searching the Landry, or Laundry, I keep saying Landry, they began searching the Laundry home. The body found at Grand Teton National Park was confirmed to be Gabby Petito's body. And it's just horrible. Like, we knew it would be her body because they said it matched the description, but there was still like a little glimpse of hope that it wouldn't be her body. So the coroner did confirm that the body is Gabby's, and they confirmed that the manner of death was homicide. However, they did not confirm the cause of death, and they stated that they would not be confirming this information.
In this clip, I'm describing why they may have wanted to keep Gabby's cause of death private. If you're into murder mysteries like me, then you know that investigators like to keep some information from the public so that when they interview their person of interest, they can see if what that person says aligns with evidence or not, without the possibility of that person reading these details in the newspaper. But there is an update. So y'all, I've been editing this video for about 4 days, and in the past 4 days, Gabby's cause of death has been released to the public. Today, October 12, 2021, it was announced that Gabby's cause of death was strangulation. I decided to mute the clip and not delete it completely so that you can still see me do my hair.
After Gabby Petito's body was confirmed to be hers and her manner of death was also confirmed, a young lady named Nina Angelo came forward stating that her and her boyfriend were actually in Jackson Hole for a wedding and decided to take a break during their trip, and they stopped at a restaurant, and in the restaurant they believed that they saw Gabby and Brian arguing with one another, but also arguing with the wait staff. So they reported this information to police after Gabby's body was found on September 22nd, but this actually happened on August 27th. And they may, even though this was a big story, they may not have known. I'm not sure what this couple does, or why it took them so long to come forward with this information, but I just think it's great that they did come forward with the information. And what they said was pretty scary. They said that Brian and Gabby were in the restaurant. Gabby appeared to be extremely upset, maybe even crying, and Brian was arguing with the wait staff at the restaurant. It seemed to be over money, but that has not been, confirmed yet. But it seemed that the argument may have been over money. And as they left the restaurant, Gabby was really upset and she apologized profusely to the restaurant staff on behalf of Brian, saying that she was really sorry as they left the restaurant. And Nina, the young lady who reported this, specifically said that Gabby seemed to be at her breaking point. And I think that's a really important observation, because if you watched the interview with the police when they were pulled over on August 12th, Gabby said something similar, or Gabby said something that would make you think that, yeah, this could very well be the case. She may have been at her breaking point, because she said something to the police along the lines of, I know she said Brian gets frustrated with her, but she did say something along the lines of, him frustrating her or driving her crazy or getting on her nerves. This may have been the very last sighting of Gabby Petito alive, because we know that her last Instagram post was on August 25th. and that was also around the last time she spoke to her mom, and they saw them on August 27th. And Gabby's vehicle, I believe, was recorded by the Bethune family also on the 27th. And then Brian was seen hitchhiking on the 29th. So I know it's a bit confusing because all of this information came out at different times, and I could have just told the story straight through, but I decided to tell the story in the way that the information was released to the public because I think it makes the story even more haunting. You know, the fact that the picture was painted for us one way from the beginning, and then as the story develops and we learn more and more, it just becomes more terrifying and more terrifying. Can you imagine going away on a cross-country trip with someone that you thought you were going to spend your life with, that you thought loved you, and that person just leaving you, and their family nor them communicating with your family to let your family know what's going on with you, whether you decided to up and leave that person. This train is annoying. Even if you did decide to leave that person and kind of do your own thing, I would still expect that person to, you know, communicate with my family if my family is reaching out to them because they can't get in touch with me. And that's the part that's weird. If they separated by choice and he had nothing to hide, why not talk to her family? Why not talk to the police? Why hire an attorney and just clear your name? You know, none of that made any sense to me, and I think a lot of this did not make sense to the police. So on September 23rd, just 4 days after Gabby's body was found, 2 days after the body was confirmed to be hers, and 1 day after this couple came forward saying we saw them, the FBI released a federal arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie. And to be clear, this arrest warrant was not in connection to the homicide of Gabby Petito. This arrest warrant was for like using a device that interferes with interstate commerce, I believe is what it said. And I'm actually gonna pull it up really quickly just to read you guys what the arrest warrant says. The grand jury charges that from, on, or about August 30th, 2021 through and including on or about September 1st, 2021 in the District of Wyoming and elsewhere, the defendant, Brian Christopher Laundrie, God damn it, Laundrie, knowingly and with intent to defraud, used one or more unauthorized devices, namely a Capital One bank debit card ending in 8774 and a personal identification number for Capital One bank accounts ending in 0525 and 8665, and by such conduct obtained things of value aggregating to $1,000 or more during that period, which affected interstate commerce. So in layman's term, Brian basically used a debit card that was not his. I believe he went to like an ATM of some sort and took out up to $1,000, or not up to, but at least $1,000 in cash from these bank accounts, and that is fraud because it was not his bank account. They have not made it clear whether or not they were Gabby's bank accounts, but I'm gonna say that's my assumption that they were Gabby's bank accounts, but so far it's unclear whose bank accounts they were. But you know, when people go missing, they do typically track like their debit card and bank card and credit card usage, and I'm assuming that is probably how they found out that Brian was using these cards. So yeah, the FBI released this federal warrant for arrest for Brian Laundrie, and I honestly think, you know, this is just to get him in, to come in for questioning so that they can find out more information about what happened to Gabby, and if he has any additional information to share. But so far, Brian has not come forward, which is expected. Now, Gabby's family did hold a memorial in Long Island, New York on September, I believe, 24th. And there was also one held in Florida, because we know that her mom and her stepdad live in New York and her dad lives in Florida. So these were held to remember her, in memorial of her. And then just 2 days later, there was a funeral held in New York for Gabby, and it was open to the public, which I think was a beautiful thing. And it was also live streamed, because at this point the story had made such grand news, you know, national news, international news even, that this was something that her family wanted to share with the world. And I think it was a really cool thing for them to do, because so many people shared in their pain. So many people were following this story, hoping that Gabby was returned home safely. And even though that wasn't the case, they still, you know, called in tips and gave the information that they could. And that is ultimately what led to even finding Gabby's body, is the tips that people, you know, gave to police. You know, the young lady seeing him and saying that he hitchhiked with her and her boyfriend. And that led to the family of vloggers who got a video of the van in a similar location, and that led to the couple coming out saying that they saw them arguing in a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? So it was important, I think, for the family to share this very, very close and sacred moment with the world. And I really do commend their courage and their ability to do so, because I know that that was probably really hard for them. Ooh. Now, as of now, Brian has still not been found, guys. And there are some new developments. Like, when I say new, I'm talking about within the past week or so. So Brian was actually believed to be spotted in along the Appalachian Trail on or near the North Carolina-Tennessee border. Dennis Davis actually called into the police, and that has not been confirmed or denied yet. But if he did see him, that would have been on the weekend of October 1st to October 3rd. They didn't specify what day he thought he saw him, but we know it's the weekend between October 1st and October 3rd. Oh my God, y'all. So I used 12 of these already, so I have one more pack of these I'm gonna use. I think for this one I'm gonna do a big black rod. Something that's pretty interesting is that Dog the Bounty Hunter has now joined in the search for Brian Landry. Now, it's unclear if this is a publicity stunt or not, but I'm just gonna assume, you know, he has daughters. Maybe he just wants to, you know, help this family out. So yeah, he has joined the search for Brian Landry, and he actually ended up getting a tip saying that Brian was at Fort DeSoto, which is a camping ground in Florida. He was at Fort DeSoto in the beginning of September. Why this information never came out before, no one knows. But it was eventually confirmed by Brian's sister. What is her name? Cassie, who came out. She's done an interview, and she confirmed that, yes, Brian came home on August 17th through August 23rd. And, you know, that was after the argument with him and Gabby. But he went back, and we know that Gabby was accounted for at this time, so maybe that's why this news wasn't such big information, is because he went back to meet Gabby, I believe, in Salt Lake City. He flew back on August 23rd. He really just flew home to get some more supplies and to clear out their storage unit, because they wanted to save money, and that was kind of a waste, I guess. So he closed out their storage unit. But when he came home on September 1st, she said that he and her parents drove out to her home to see her and her children, and they kind of just chilled. Everything was normal. And then this is where Dog the Bounty Hunter is important, because she confirmed that on September 6th, her parents and Brian, along with her children, all went camping in Fort DeSoto in Florida. And she said everything seemed normal. There was no talk of Gabby. There didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. So she didn't think much of it until police started questioning them on September 11th. And remember, September 11th is when Gabby's parents actually reported her missing once they could not get through to her and Brian nor his family were communicating with them. So that was a freaking bombshell. And although Dog the Bounty Hunter is not working with police, he is doing his own investigation. He is not working with the police. I think that was some good information that actually came out. Now, his sister says that she has not spoken to Brian. And that if she did speak to him, she has not spoken to him since their family trip to Fort DeSoto. And if she were to speak to him, she would ask Brian to turn himself in and get their family out of this horrible mess that they are currently in, because it's honestly really a bad look. It looks like all of them right now are aiding and abetting a fugitive. That's what it looks like. And so far his parents have not been arrested, and that's because the police have no reason to arrest them. They have nothing to arrest them on. They have nothing to arrest him on. You know what I'm saying? So their parents are safe right now, but I think that once Brian is found and more details start to come out, if it's confirmed that they actually assisted him with evading police, they are definitely going to be accessories after the fact in Gabby Petito's murder, because we know for a fact she was murdered, right? So that's pretty much all the information we have for right now on this case. But I will say, as of this week, so much new information has come out. Let me dry my hands real quick because I gotta go on my phone for this. So much information has come out. So now Brian's family, his lawyer spoke to CNN on, I believe, October 5th, which is literally this week. Today is October 8th. They spoke to him on October 5th, and he told them that we now believe the day Brian left to hike in the preserve was Monday, September 13th. So one day before they originally told police. He said the Laundries were basing the date Brian left on their recollection of certain events. Upon further communication with the FBI and confirmation of the Mustang being at the Laundrie residence on Wednesday, September 15th, we now believe the day Brian left to hike in the preserve was Monday, September 13th. And the reason they feel this way, I read a little more. The reason they feel this way is because the car actually was spotted at Carlton Reserve on September 14th and it received a citation. But by September 15th, the car was back at the Laundrie house. So what the family is saying now, and to me this all just sounds like BS. What the family is saying now is that Brian went camping at Carlton Reserve on Monday, September 13th. After he did not return home on September 13th, his parents went to look for him there on September 14th, and that is when they saw the citation on the car. So, well, his dad. So he went home, and on September 15th, his parents, both of them, returned back to Carlton Reserve to pick up the car, and that is how the car got back home. Why this information was not shared with police in the beginning, when the search warrant for their house was first issued and the police first started searching that Mustang, is beyond me. Why is this information just coming out this week? Like I said, I believe it came out on September 5th. It may have been September 6th. Either way, it's this week. It doesn't make any sense. And just yesterday, police searching Carlton Reserve. Now, Carlton Reserve, like I told you, is an 81-mile stretch. Has been closed to the public. No one can go there. But police are saying that they recently found a campsite that looks to be fresh, like it was just used. So originally they wanted Chris Laundrie, Brian's father, to come and assist them with searching the campgrounds and taking them through trails that he usually hikes. But they ended up having to halt that because they found this campground that has been recently used, which is nuts to me. So as you all know, this story is still progressing. Brian Laundrie is nowhere to be found. Brian Laundrie, god damn it! Brian Laundrie is nowhere to be found. Gabby Petito has been laid to rest, but her murder investigation is in full speed. Police are still searching Carlton Reserve for him, but many people believe that he is no longer in Florida at all. They believe that his parents have assisted him with getting away. And that is why now, you know, his sister is starting to talk and all of that. His family's lawyer has said that they do not represent his sister. She hasn't spoken to her brother. She's not speaking to her parents, or at least they're not speaking to her. They're having no contact with her since she started talking. So many things just don't make sense. So we just have to wait until more details come out about this story. So as you can see, my hair is done, and now I need to dry it. So I find that when you do a perm rod set, drying your hair with heat gives you a smoother result than letting it air dry. So we are going to be drying this with heat. And to do that, I don't have an overhead hair dryer, so I'm going to be doing two things. So I bought this off Amazon. I'm not sure how it works, but we're going to give it a shot. If I like it, then I will link it down below. If it's not linked down below, then that means I did not like this blow dryer. Okay? Or maybe not. Maybe I just was too lazy to like actually go look up the link. But I'll eventually put it there, okay? So yes, I got this blow dryer, and the reason I got it is because it comes with a diffuser. But I'm going to be using this along with this hair drying cap. So I've had this for a while, but the blow dryer that I use is one of the long, narrow, golden hot blow dryers. That is what gets my hair straight, child. But it wouldn't fit on this, so I had to buy a blow dryer specifically to be able to use this dryer. I want to just spray my hair again, just in case some areas dried. Spray it up real quick.
I love this dryer because the material seems really sturdy, and I haven't had any issues with it melting like I've heard about the soft dryers, and it has a drawstring in the back to fit any size head. Plus it works perfectly. I dried my hair for about 2 hours, which is the standard time that I would do even under a hooded dryer, but minus the bulkiness of a hooded dryer. So once my hair was dry, I was tired, y'all. It was late. I put on a bonnet and took my behind to sleep, and this is the next day. So I add some oil to my hands just to reduce frizz and also add shine as I take down my rollers. And y'all, my curls were so freaking bouncy. Like, the combination of products was perfect, and like, do y'all see this? So I'm gonna go ahead and take out all of these rollers, and once they're out, I'm gonna separate the curls to add some volume to my hair. I hope you guys enjoyed this Hairstyles and Horror Stories segment so far, and I found this story extremely horrifying because as a YouTuber, you never think someone who's in your videos is gonna harm you or that you're gonna come across a crime scene. Just completely terrifying. So I'm just picking my hair to make it nice and fluffy, but over the next few days, it will stretch out and get even bigger. And this is the final look. If you made it this far, you are the real GOAT, and we appreciate you. To see some vlogs from me and Nia, definitely check out our throwback series. We have more heat on the way. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Bye.